Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Became Part of the Money Heist crew, hero, villain, or something more? Movie 1. Before we start, please go support Luis on 2234V for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. They are just children. Brats can become adults in an instant, they just need to the best teacher. The Paper House Prologue. She was walking with some shopping bags. Well, 𝒂𝒂 is allergic to gluten, she doesn't like rice pudding, and she prefers dry rice. He whispered what he took in his hands, while he compared them to see which prices were higher. And she took the cheapest ones, putting them in her shopping cart, checking them one last time to see if she had forgotten anything. After verifying that she had everything, she simply went to the checkout to pay for it. I wait and wait as the long lines slowly moved forward until it was their turn and they simply placed the products on the conveyor belts. Their products were collected and bagged. Well, how much would it be? The boy asked. Invoice name? The cashier asked. Oh yeah, 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒑𝒆𝒍. Okay, your bill would be 1,000 yen. Do you want to contribute to a foundation? 1,000 yen? 𝒂𝒑𝒂 asked nervously. Yes, 1,000 yen. Oh, okay, just let me grab my wallet and… The cashier couldn't react in time when the bags were quickly taken and the boy started running. Security, robbery, tall green hair, escapes. She quickly ran after him to try to catch up with him, only to see 𝒂𝒑𝒂 leaving the store being followed by several guards. Brat, come back here. Catch me if you can, you idiots. Using a water pipe, he began to climb a 2-story house that was in his way. The guards, seeing that they could not do it, quickly surrounded that house so as not to lose track of him. 𝒂𝒑𝒂, seeing how quickly the house ended, breathing heavily, and taking momentum, he accelerated his pace and took a great leap from the balcony. He landed right into a pile of garbage bags that luckily cushioned his fall. With a smile, he simply picked himself up from the bags along with his purchases and got ready to leave. There it is. Shit, 𝒂𝒑𝒂 exclaimed as he started running again. He quickened his pace when he saw more police officers following him, but he couldn't let himself be caught. He had to return to her. He quickly turned into an alley and, without realizing it, accidentally pushed a man who appeared to be middle-aged. Oh damn, sir, I'm so sorry, 𝒂𝒑𝒂 said, stopping his step to help lift him up. Yes, young man, don't worry, don't hurt me, he said, monitoring 𝒂𝒑𝒂. Well, I have to go. It was a pleasure. 𝒂𝒑𝒂 simply ran off again so he could lose the guards chasing him, while the man he had knocked to the ground simply watched him for a few moments. Good, it works for me. The strange man took out a small notebook where he had written down several names, but of those many names, 2 in particular stood out. 𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒑𝒆𝒍. 𝒂𝒂 and Telly. A rare, but perfect couple, the man said as he simply continued on his way. Luckily, he had lost the guards, and leaving an alley, he quickly entered a place that looked like a small apartment complex. The first thing 𝒂𝒑𝒂 did when he entered was sit on the bench in the small courtyard of the place where an old woman was sweeping. Good afternoon, Mrs. Lily, 𝒂𝒑𝒂 greeted the lady with a big smile. Huh! 𝒂𝒑𝒂, how are you, my son? Why do you look so tired? Don't tell me that. 𝒂𝒑𝒂 simply tilted his head slightly as he shrugged his shoulders, allowing the lady to approach him. 𝒂𝒑𝒂 thought she would hug him, but his surprise was great when he felt someone pull his ear. What did I tell you about stealing? The old woman asked, somewhat annoyed. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lily, but you know what he's going through, and I'm not going to leave 𝒂𝒂 without food, 𝒂𝒑𝒂 said a little seriously. But why don't you take that girl to her parents? They have money, they could even get you out of this place. No, Mrs. Lily, they want to separate us, and believe me, I've tried, but she doesn't want to leave my side, just as I don't want to leave hers, and even so I don't want to leave here. Here I have everything I want, calm, a partner, good neighbors and a grandmother, 𝒂𝒑𝒂 said with a big smile, making the little old lady smile. I know we're going through a bad time, but hey, bad times always go away, sooner or later, and now if you'll excuse me, I'll go feed 𝒂𝒂. He was dying of hunger since morning. Okay, my son, go and feed that little girl, it's obvious that she loves you very much. Oh, they remind me of me and my husband in my youth. such good times, she said with a small smile as she continued sweeping her patio space. Izuku nodded at this and with a smile began to climb the short stairs to reach the second floor and go to his room. He began to hear a few noises, so with some concern he quickly opened the door, but it was only Saiko who was cleaning the furniture. "Huh! Honey, you're here," the girl said with a calm tone and a smile. Izuku couldn't answer anything. He stayed for a while looking at the girl, a sweaty top that left nothing to his imagination, a small skirt due to the heat of cleaning, and her hair tied in 2 pigtails. She looked like a cheerleader at some point. "Izuku?" Saiko asked, confused as she had no answer, but quickly realized what was happening. She smiled slightly, but now with mischief. Leaving her cleaning supplies aside, she simply turned around and began to head to her room, moving her hips from side to side. "Well, I've finished cleaning the house, but now I'm very sweaty, very hot." "Oh shit, yeah," Izuku exclaimed with a big smile. Before the girl reached the room, Izuku was faster and carried her in his arms. Now both of them walked towards her. "Can't help yourself, huh, tiger?" Saiko asked with a small laugh. "With you, who could?" He began to lightly kiss the girl's neck as they entered the room and slowly closed the door. Elsewhere. So this would be all. He spoke to himself while holding a whiteboard full of photos and names of 10 boys. Izuku Midoriya, Saiko Intelli, Denki Kaminari, Nijire Hato, Katsuki Bikugo, Shoto Todoroki, Tamaki Amajiki, Mirio Togata, Tetsu, and Nito Monoma. Now, the most important part of the plan: if I need hostages, we will have hostages. Test for the UA. Plan Diaphragm Chapter 1. He walked calmly through his small home. His shorts were the only thing he had on as he looked for spices to put in his and his girlfriend's breakfast. He simply moved spoons and pans looking for the perfect cooking state to satisfy his pupils and those of his partner until she left her room. "Hey Saiko, good morning, darling," I greet this one with a calm smile. "Good morning, darling, how did you sleep?" he asked as he rested his head on the table, closing his eyes again. "Shall we sleep?" Izuku asked with some grace. Saiko just laughed a little with a slight blush as she took 2 cutlery and began to hit the table. "I want food!" she exclaimed, still without raising her head. Izuku just laughed a little and taking 2 plates began to serve what he had cooked. Saiko, smelling the environment a little more, widened her eyes at the smell. It was delicious. Izuku extended his plate to her, and in a little hurry she took it to start eating. "Do you like it?" he asked with a slight smile. "I don't know how you do it, but I love everything you cook." "I love you." Izuku gave her a light kiss on her lips while the girl, with a blush and a tender smile, nodded, but Izuku noticed how little by little she became nervous. Hey honey." "Yes, Saiko, what's wrong?" Izuku asked. "It's just that the other day I was walking through the square and well, I saw a dress that..." Izuku just looked at his girlfriend and couldn't do anything but lower his head. Saiko, noticing this, quickly fell silent. She wasn't going to continue, but she couldn't stop Izuku from starting to cry. "What's wrong, Izuku?" Saiko asked, confused and worried. "It's that I can't give you what you deserve. You deserve heaven and earth, and I have you living in this crappy place. I think it was a mistake for you to meet me. You should be living in luxury, not in this shack." Izuku couldn't continue because a slap reached his face. He felt the burning sensation on his face slowly increasing, and Saiko's tears began to fall. "Don't say that again," Saiko said angrily. "But it's that. You know I'm here because I love you and I don't care about money." "Saiko, a dress is just a whim, it's nothing more than that, and besides, what's the point of having so much money if I'm only going to live surrounded by people who want it? But with you I'm happy, I'm free, and I feel like I can do whatever I want. If I'm with you I feel free. Besides, money comes and goes. I'm sure you'll be able to get a good job, you just have to be patient." She began to caress the boy's face while Izuku could do nothing but cry. He hugged Saiko. It was what he wanted most in those moments. She, with a tender smile, and with light tears, she only began to caress his hair. "We will get through this together, understood?" Saiko asked while Izuku could only nod in her chest. I love you, Izuku whispered so that Saiko would just snuggle up to him. Elsewhere. Okay, students, today we have an important announcement to make all of you. He raised his voice a little while standing in front of both main courses of the academy, A and B. What is that announcement, Professor Aizawa? A tall student asked. Well, Lida, next week new classmates will join both courses. I hope you can get along with them and even learn from them. I recommend them to me as exceptional students. Remember that. Yes, Professor Aizawa, they all confirmed. Okay, now you have the trust. Aizawa was entering the principal's office. Any problem, Aizawa? He asked, confused when he saw how Aizawa had entered his office. I want to get a few students into this academy, Aizawa said with a calm smile and a low tone of voice. Any reason to do so? Niza asked, a little surprised. Easy, they are star students. Basically, I want to include a bunch of recommended ones. Can I? Well, you are not one to recommend students. That says that these are exceptional, so I don't see any problem with it. Can you give me their names and in which course you would say they will develop better? Of course, Director Aizawa answered. You already have your entrance secured. Anything else you want to know? I was in front of the 10 kids in what looked like an old garage full of desks and different utensils, but a blackboard in front of them. Yes, why the UA? Saiko asked, confused. Easy, the UA, like the other academies, has an annual excursion for first years to the paper house in Tokyo. Apart from the fact that it is the last truck that enters, behind them come the officers who will support them, and that is where we will attack. Wait, I just have one question. How the hell did we get here? Izuku asked, confused. Brother, if you don't know, I even less do. A boy with yellow-dyed hair responded. The important thing is not how we got there, but how will we get out? Aizawa replied. So why do you need us? Shoto asked. Your question is very easy, and I will start by mentioning those that work in duo, Aizawa said as he took a piece of chalk and began to stain the blackboard. Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki. Experts in explosives and engineering, you, like Izuku, will be of great help to me, so I expect the best work. Expect only the best from me, Bakugo said with a smile. I say the same thing, Todoroki said in his faithful calm. Tamaki Amajiki and Mirio Togata. A marksman and the national youth strength champion, you two will be an unstoppable duo together, serving as a barrier and support for the team, understood? Why yes, Professor, Tamaki said, lowering his head slightly nervously. Of course, Mirio exclaimed. Nito Monoma and Tetsu 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 Tetsu. Monoma, Tetsu Tetsu, although your talent is frowned upon by everyone, for me it is not. You are truly impressive, and together with Tetsu Tetsu you can become the best a weapon creator and a weapon modifier. One creates them, Monoma said. And the other one gives them a plus, Tetsu Tetsu said, bumping his fist with the Nijire Hato. Medical compliment, your learnings are the best at the national level. You are the youngest doctor so far in the country, and it is an honor for me to have you here, and for the team. What can I say? I'm great, Nijire said with a tender smile. Psycho-intelli. Intelligence above normal, a genetic deformity that made your brain think faster and deduce at a better speed, very convenient for this mission. Thank you, Professor, the girl said, bowing, but an arm went around her neck. And finally, Izuku Midoriya. An expert in weapons, hacking and locks, the best student at the academy, he is someone exceptional in his mental abilities, being only surpassed by his partner and by me in that field. You are someone exceptional and extremely important for this mission. A pill, I would say. Your only defect is your physical abilities, but we have Mirio. So I don't see much of a problem with that. Guilty, Izuku said while he had Saiko leaning on his chest, and some laughed. So, are you sure you want to do this? Aizawa asked. What do you say, Saiko? Izuku asked. Wherever you go, I'll go, she responded with a tender smile. I honestly don't have much to do, so this idea excited me too. As if she were a little girl, Nijire jumped around a little. Are you sure you want to put her in the teacher plan? Bakugo asked. As childish as it may seem, she is the youngest and most experienced doctor of her generation, Bakugo. So yes, I am very sure, he answered so that Bakugo would nod, but well, first we will need names. I cannot send them with their real names. I asked to be called Batman. Izuku mocked while Psycho gave him a small blow on the chest to let Aizawa finish. No, they will use the nicknames of the 10 most powerful businessmen in Japan, Aizawa replied. And that would be why? Monoma asked. Easy, they are public figures, anyone could use their nickname. There is no pattern that links us to them because they would have to link 126 million people who are the current inhabitants of Japan, and there is no technology in the world to do that. But will you come with us or? No, you will have a phone where you can contact me once a day, a phone that is not tracked, is that clear? He asked this so that Tamaki confirmed, having his mystery resolved. Good, we will draw up the plan throughout this year, there can be no failures. Next week you will enter the UA, and you will go to the following courses. Course B. Izuku Midoriya. Nito Monoma. Tetsu. Tamaki Amajiki. Katsuki Bikugo. Wait, can I ask my girlfriend to go on the B? No, Midoriya, I need Intelli in a course B has always been identified by weak students, especially girls. If Intelli goes there it could inspire them. A has women's fights, they know martial arts and know how to defend themselves. That's why I need Todoroki, Mirio, Nijire. Intelli and Denki and A, I need them to slowly lose that class but make them think that everything is okay. Can you do that? Aizawa asked so that those mentioned would nod also. They will have my support, since that is the class where I direct. Well then, would that be all? Mirio asked, so Aizawa agreed. Yes, ladies, gentlemen, we will make history because we will steal the paper house, Aizawa said, so that everyone began to applaud. Well, then if there are no more questions. Yes, I have one, Denki said. Which? Why is your hair so messed up? He asked as everyone started laughing. Well, that's good. I need you all to trust each other, Aizawa said with a slight smile. Wow, this is the first time I've seen someone get happy about being insulted, Monoma replied a little sarcastically. Okay, then we'll see each other next week on the roof of the Class 1F dormitories, which won't be implemented until next year. We'll use it as a base, okay? Aizawa said for everyone to nod. Okay, so? Yes, the other week they enter the UA as infiltrators, I answered Izuku with a big smile, while everyone started to laugh a little nervously but confidently. Complete Diaphragm Chapter 2. They were in their small home putting on their academy uniforms. Are you sure you want to do this, Psycho? You know we can just leave, get away from this. No, Izuku, we made a promise, we can't break it. I feel so bad for bringing you into this, Izuku said with a few small laughs of guilt. No, you got me into nothing. I accepted this mission, because everything we do together, understood? Psycho asked with a tender smile so that Izuku would nod. Fine, but you know what, if we get into this? Yes, maybe we have no way out. You could die, Izuku warned. We will die together, Psycho affirmed. Izuku just started scratching the bridge of his nose while laughing a little. She was his girlfriend, but not his property. If she wanted to accompany him, he couldn't deny her. Well, time to leave this place. I know there are dormitories at UA, so. You feel bad for Mrs. Lily, right? Psycho asked, only for Izuku to nod. I don't want to leave her alone, she's like a mother to me. You will not leave her alone, it will only be for a while. After that we can return and even give her a better life, Psycho said, only for Izuku to nod. Well, it's about time, right? Izuku asked, looking at his watch. Yes, it's time, shall we go? In a loving tone the green-haired boy agreed, only to take Psycho's hand, and so, both left his apartment. They were chatting pleasantly until they arrived at UA. They quickly showed the badge that Aizawa had given them and they were able to pass. They met several boys from the mission, and they ignored each other. They didn't even see each other, that was essential. No communication between them until the moment of executing the plan. Well, I think it's time for us to part ways. They were in the middle of a hallway. On one side was Class A, and on the other was Class B. Psycho just nodded but squeezed Izuku's hand tightly. I hate you, Psycho said with a small smile. I hate you too. It was hard for you to say that, right? Psycho asked with a bit of grace. As you can't imagine, well, we'll meet at night behind those bushes, understood? I whispered this so that Psycho would nod. Well, goodbye, stranger. Goodbye, stranger, Psycho said goodbye in the same way for each one to take a different path. Izuku walked calmly towards what would be his prison for almost a year. When he arrived, he could find the others outside and what seemed to be a very robust man in front of them. Okay, I'll be your teacher. You can call me Vlad, and this one sees Izuku. Oh, the last new one. Okay, everyone is here. Let me introduce you. Everyone agreed and Vlad entered. Well then, what will we be like? 𝒂𝒂𝒂 asked. It's true, the teacher said that we should create a personality completely opposite to ours. This will be shit, but we have to do it, 𝒂𝒂 said so that everyone would nod. Okay, we're about to go in. Does anyone regret what we're about to do? Izuku asked. I will regret it for the rest of my life, but my mother needs that money and I will not let her die, Tamaki stated, so everyone approved. Well, those are good motivations. You even make me feel like shit. Between small laughs, Izuku made the joke so that everyone started laughing a little. Okay, be quiet, here he comes. Who the hell is called Vlad? 𝒂𝒂𝒂 asked, realizing the guy's nickname. I don't know, maybe his friends don't like him, Izuku joked, so everyone laughed lightly. Well, Brats, I mentioned this as I leave the room, come in. The 5 boys signed and entered the room. At that moment everyone stared at them. They were a little striking because of their extravagant hair colors. Okay, introduce yourselves, Vlado said, pointing to the living room. Hello, nice to meet you, I'm Katsuki 𝒂𝒂. I hope we can get along and be great partners, 𝒂𝒂 greeted with a smile so fake that no one noticed. Same here, by the way, I'm Izuku Midoriya, the green-haired boy mentioned with the same smile. I'm 𝒂𝒂𝒂. I hope we can get along. Nito Monoma, I simplify the boy. I am Tamaki Ayamajiki. I hope we get along, he said nervously. Okay, now that you've introduced yourselves, go to your places and we'll start the class. They tried to talk to them, and they, a little annoyed, had to pretend to be pleased and happy to meet them, and so their day went by, everyone wanting to meet them, chatting with them and getting to know them better. And that's how their first day at UA ended. A very boring day from their point of view. They didn't do anything interesting and saw things they already knew, nothing new. Until the time of their meeting arrived, they had to go to that place, to the 1H dormitories, which were not finished yet and would be perfect to draw up their plans. Well then, how did your first day go? Aizawa asked as everyone sat on the rooftop floor. Shit, having to fake a personality is the worst, 𝒂𝒂 responded with annoyance. I couldn't even stand being away from my wife, Izuku said in a dramatic tone while Psycho laughed lightly. Oh, how cute, Nijire squealed excitedly. But anyway, back to what we're getting at, first stroke, how will we get into the paper house? Well, I had a few days, if I may say so, Izuku said, for everyone to nod. Well, what I had planned must first be resolved with a little unknown. Will it only be the UA? Or will other schools go? The Shiketsu and Ketsubutsu schools will go, Aizawa stated. Okay, that works for me. You all will be the last academy to enter, right? Izuku asked, so Aizawa would nod. Okay, but why not make Shiketsu Academy the last to enter? And that would be why. Easy, the other drivers, when they realize what is happening, will try to escape, without caring what, and obviously it will be in their trucks. The bad thing is that they will have our faces recorded on them. That is why we need several of us in each bus, but especially in Shiketsu. Since being smaller than the U, it is less guarded, practically. They wouldn't suspect that something was happening there, Aizawa finished. But there is a flaw in your plan. The soldiers who will support security will go behind everything, meaning they will also cover Shiketsu. That's where Monoma and 𝒂𝒂𝒂 come in, Izuku said, answering his girlfriend's question. Monoma, can you create a bazooka? The question offends, old man, Monoma answered. Okay, 𝒂𝒂𝒂. I need you to modify the projectile of that bazooka so that its explosion expands even more, can you? Don't even finish that sentence, old man, I know what you want, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 answered with a big smile. Okay, that's fine, I need Mirio and Tamaki as infiltrators on Shiketsu's bus. One will carry the modified bazooka and the other will aim, although I'll also need 𝒂𝒂 to keep any students who want to act brave at bay, he said, so the 3 of them agreed. I knew I wasn't wrong about you, Midoriya, Aizawa answered, taking out a cigarette. I could even say that you are just as smart as me. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I made that plan in history class, Izuku said, so Aizawa laughed with a cigarette in his mouth. Well, that's a good plan, Midoriya, but what about the rest? That's my strong point, Professor. Everyone looked at Izuku for a moment. It seemed like he started to laugh, but those laughs slowly stopped, giving him a look so cold and icy that it would make everyone a little nervous, even Aizawa. I always act on the fly with such a cold tone, Izuku answered. Come on, honey, don't be dramatic, Psycho said, pulling her cheek a little. Yes, sorry, Izuku answered, laughing a little, making everyone sweat a little. Well then, do we have the plan yet? Mirio asked so everyone could nod. Yes, we will just be perfecting it. We still have 9 months for that, so this will be our meeting point every night at 10. Make sure that no one sees why you come here, and that would be all for today. You can go, and remember. We don't know each other, they all said in unison so that Aizawa would nod. Okay, let's get this shit started. Everyone looks at Aizawa a little surprised. Sorry, I'm excited. He laughs a little in his low tone, making everyone laugh lightly. Everyone began to get off the building, and at the entrance each one took a different direction. Izuku and Psycho said goodbye with a kiss and left. Aizawa simply stayed there watching them as both groups of boys left and went back into the dormitories. And so it went on for 9 months, making false friendships and false bonds with the others at the academy, especially with his corresponding class. For his part, Aizawa began to organize his things to be able to talk to the boys without being detected while inside the paper house. And now we can see the 10 boys sitting in what was a small room where there was a large table with various cables and telephones. So tomorrow is the day, Tamaki said so Aizawa would nod. Yes, tomorrow they will invade the paper house. You mean we will invade, Professor? This would not be possible without you, Monoma said so everyone agreed. Let me tell you, I am proud of all of you. You are like family to me, just as I hope that you consider yourselves a family. If we were a family, we are aware that Bakugo would be the drunk uncle, Izuku said so everyone started laughing, even Bakugo. Fine, but they will need clothing so they are not recognized, a uniform that everyone wears, even the hostages. But Professor, that would be a lot of work, and we don't have that time anymore, Psycho said a little worried. No, I was doing some work alone, he said while taking out several boxes from a corner of the room. They are completely red, they will cover your whole body. And there are some masks with old mustaches, perfect for not telling them apart. You think of everything, right, Professor? Izuku asked with a bit of grace. What can I tell you? I'm a cautious man, Aizawa answered in his low tone while nodding with a small smile. Well then, Monoma, Tetsu, do you have everything? Izuku asked so the two agreed. Well, Bakugo and I will go to Shiketsu to start modifying the truck. Luckily they gave me the keys. I am already the driver of that school, Izuku said with a big smile, making some start laughing. Keep this up and I'll probably make you a janitor. I'm kidding, Tetsu. Well, time to get down to business, Izuku said, cracking his knuckles. Be careful, Psycho said, giving him a small kiss on the lips. Yes, we will just put the bazooka in the bus and go back, that will be all, Izuku said so that Bakugo would nod. Okay, go, Aizawa said so that both of them started to go down the stairs. Izuku and Bakugo left the dorms while everyone was reviewing the plan. Izuku and Bakugo walked calmly through the dark streets that Japan offered them at that late hour. They didn't talk about anything, they were just calm and feeling a little cold. So what will you do with the money they pay you? Bakugo rubbed his hands while blowing lightly on them to relieve the cold. I will leave Japan with Psycho. I want to give him a better life. It's obvious that you love that girl, right? Izuku nods. How did you two meet? Bakugo asked. Our story is a little complicated. Maybe I'll tell you about it later, but look, we're here, he said, pointing to the academy. Well, how will we get in? Bakugo asked. Easy, climbing, Izuku said with a smile. The Balance to Victory, Chapter 3. Izuku climbed the fence and taking Bakugo's hand helped him to get to the other side and then threw himself. Okay, so what do we have to do? Bakugo asked, confused. Well, we will open a compartment in the bus that will be delivered to me tomorrow to take those from Shiketsu. It will be a 33 by 13 compartment, enough to fit the bazooka, Izuku said. 33 for how much? 13, Izuku said. The more you suck me, the more it grows, Bakugo said as he started laughing like crazy while the green-haired boy just covered his eyes and shook his head. Come on, don't get mad, it's just a joke I saw somewhere. But oh well, what were we talking about? in which we must invade the truck of some first-year boys in order to carry out the robbery of the century. He said this sarcastically so that 𝑷𝒂𝒂 started laughing. How did we get to this point? 𝑷𝒂𝒂 asked, looking at the sky. I have very big economic problems and a wife to support, and you? Why are you here? Izuku asked, looking at the ashen-haired boy. I'm wanted for stealing money from Endeavor, he said with a chuckle, making Izuku widen his eyes a little. How do you steal from the second largest businessman in Japan? Izuku asked, surprised. Easy, fake names, fake dates, and then you just have to point a gun at his head after killing his guards. Wow, if that's easy for you, I can't imagine what would be complicated, Izuku said so 𝑷𝒂𝒂 would laugh. Well, but unfortunately I ran out of bullets. That day I almost went to jail, but he saved me. Who? Izuku asked. The professor came by in his car and picked me up to get out of there. I didn't know him, but he was my only hope. He kept me safe in his house until I met the idiot with the two-colored hair. The idiot was an engineer, but a strong one. He didn't build little machines or shit like that. He built machines so he could finish off people with a single blow. The day I met him, I gave him the idea of adding explosives to the armor. He didn't know how to use them, and I wanted to see what they would look like. And it was from that day that you began to learn how to use explosives? Izuku asked so that 𝑷𝒂𝒂 agreed. There were days without sleep, but it was worth it. Do you know how to make a bomb that explodes inward? Izuku was silent for a while and then started laughing out loud, just like 𝑷𝒂𝒂, but they both silenced each other knowing that they might get someone's attention. Do you really know how to make a bomb that explodes inwards? Izuku whispered in surprise. Yes, it's easier than it seems, he whispered with a smile between his teeth. Okay, we're almost there, follow me. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 nodded as they both began to walk crouched down so as not to be recorded by the security cameras. If their identity was known, it would be a serious problem. Izuku and 𝒂𝒂𝒂 were able to stealthily reach what would be Shiketsu's bus. I still don't understand how they hired you to drive this, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 impressed said, seeing the large size of the bus. I don't even know, but it's good that they did it since it is one of the fundamental parts of the plan. Then Izuku opened the doors of the truck and got in with 𝒂𝒂𝒂. They both left their things on the ground and locked the door. Do you know what I don't understand about the plan? Izuku asked. That? That guy, Denki Kaminari, they never told us what he does, and he's only in the meetings. He's not even in either of the two classrooms, Izuku said. Who knows? Maybe it's just the comic relief, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 said so Izuku would laugh a little. Maybe, although if the professor brings him on the mission it must be for something. He said this so that 𝒂𝒂𝒂 agreed to carefree. Well, shall we begin? 𝒂𝒂𝒂 asked so Izuku would nod. Elsewhere. It was a beautiful room, a giant bed that took up almost the entire space of the room, but what stood out were the girls sitting on the bed. A book in the middle of the Serbian bed as a support for the bottle to spin. So, Intelli, truth or dare? A girl with pink hair asked excitedly. True, she responded with a calm smile. Okay, why do you stare so much at that boy from Class B, that guy, Izuku Midoriya? She asked with a mischievous smile. Simple, I hate him. He tries to talk to me and I try to find something to get him away from me. That's all, Psycho said with annoyance, turning her gaze. Oh, sorry about that, Mina said, a little uncomfortable. Come on, don't worry, shall we continue? She asked calmly. Well, now I know I have no competition, thought Toru, a girl with pretty blonde hair and a tender smile. With Tetsu and Monoma. You're lucky we can finish this by tomorrow, or else the plan would have little chance of working, Monoma said as he connected some mechanisms. Sorry, old man, but if I said we didn't have it, there was a chance we'd get kicked out, Tetsu said with a nervous smile. Good thing you said yes. How are you doing with that ammo? Well, as I see we will only have one shot. This Tamaki guy will have to be precise because if not, we could lose, Monoma said so that Tetsu agreed. And you, are you ready for tomorrow? Monoma asked. I'm being honest with you, old man, no, but I still have to do it. My little sister has cancer, the resources are not enough, and if I can do something to save her, I will do it. Damn, old man, is he still the same? Monoma asked so Tetsu would nod. Yes, so that's why I entered this mission. I will get the money and give it to my uncles so I can escape with a part, and the majority for my sister's treatment. Well, that's a good reason. I'm only here because I have nothing else to do, no family, no studies, no work. I just want to get that money to be able to live, so let's continue. Tetsu just agreed to continue connecting what seemed to be some cables with Izuku and Bakugo. Okay, everything ready? Bakugo asked, so Izuku agreed. Yes, everything is ready to invade. The balance is tipping more and more. Chapter 4. It was a normal day at the UA. The classes entered at the sound of the bells that indicated the beginning of classes. Class B was one of them that was calmly going to their seats. Good morning, everyone, guys, Bakugo greeted with a big smile. Good morning too, Izuku shouted with the same smile. They shine brighter than the sun, they all thought, touched. Then Izuku and Bakugo walked in and sat down in their place. Bakugo started talking calmly with Awase and Kurwaro while Izuku chatted with Setsuna, Reiko, Kodai and Kendo. So Midoriya, have you already thought about where you want to go? Kodai asked with a slight blush. To an amusement park, he shouted with excitement. God, so cute, the four of them thought with comical tears. Okay, to the amusement park it will be, Reiko said, patting her messy hair. Yes, Izuku shouted with a big smile. Shut up, brat, we're about to start, Vlad said as he walked through the door. So Setsuna, Reiko, Yui and Kendo just ruffled their hair a bit, and then settled into their spots. Well, as you know, in the last months of the academy, the UA organizes a field trip for all the first years, for the main courses and the general courses. The parents of all were notified, so you already know that the field trip will take place today, so I hope you are excited. A field trip! Everyone shouted with excitement. There will be no classes, Awase shouted. We will return home early, Setsuna shouted with the same excitement. Yes, early, Izuku said with a tender smile. So you want to go to the amusement park today? Setsuna asked, so that the other three girls saw the green-haired boy, and he just agreed. Good, the four girls exclaimed, smiling tenderly. Shut up, brats, Vlad shouted angrily. Okay, now. But Vlad couldn't continue because everyone saw how Aizawa knocked on the door, and with a calm smile entered. Hello, may I come in? He asked in his almost whispered tone, only for Vlad to nod. Well, good morning, young people. Forgive the interruptions, but I will have to take 3 boys from this room. And may I ask why? Vlad asked, so Aizawa would nod. We want a healthy coexistence with those from Shiketsu and Ketsubutsu, so Izuku, Midoriya, Katsuki, Bakugo, and Tamaki Amajiki will go in the Shiketsu buses and others from my class will go in the Ketsubutsu one. He said this so that Vlad tilted his head. Why wasn't I informed of anything? Vlad asked, confused. Because we just secured it, Aizawa said, scratching his neck with a slight smile so Vlad would nod. Okay, those mentioned go. He said this so that the 3 boys agreed. Well, Zuzu, I'll see you at the place, Setsuna said with a smile between her teeth so that the other 3 girls agreed. Okay guys, let's go, Aizawa said, so the 3 of them agreed. Then the 3 of them nodded with their everlasting smile and followed Aizawa out of the room. Oh shit, I hate that idiotic good boy attitude, Bakugo said, so Izuku would nod. You're right, although? Although? Tamaki asked, confused. No, nothing, Izuku said with a calm smile. Remember, Midoriya, friendships were forbidden from the beginning. You can't even be friends with your own team, Aizawa said, so Izuku would nod. Yes, Professor, he said, lowering his head slightly. Okay, it's time to go. Is everyone ready? Aizawa asked, so that the 3 of them agreed. Okay, let's go. Invasion Chapter 5. There were 5 trucks that could be seen in the large courtyard of the UA, 1 from Shiketsu, 1 from Ketsubutsu, and 3 from the UA. A specific group of girls looked everywhere trying to get a sign of him, but they just couldn't find him. SW? Not yet, Setsuna asked, so everyone shook their heads. Why do I feel so bored when Zuzu is not around? Renegade is yawning a lot. I don't know, Midoriya is very entertaining? Reiko asked. Cuddly? Yui asked. Handsome? Setsuna asked. Yes, but he is also a very good friend, Kendo said with a slight smile. If you're right, I still don't understand how someone like him can even exist. He's so tender and innocent. It's like he stayed in a child's stage and only his body has grown, Yui said with a small smile. You're right, but I like that better than an idiot who only sees women for their body and all that, Setsuna said with a big smile so that everyone agreed. Well, I think it's about time. Kendo couldn't continue because he didn't pay attention and ended up colliding with the boy. Oh, I'm sorry, the strange boy whispered. Oh no, excuse me, I didn't pay attention to my path, Kendo said, bowing. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. The girls thought his whispering was a little strange, but they preferred not to say anything to him and simply stepped aside to let him go. That was weird, Reiko said for the others to nod. But anyway, getting back to what matters, what games are we bringing to Zuzu today? Setsuna asked with a big smile as they began to walk towards the bus. The strange boy walked through what was left of the UA until he reached Shiketsu's truck. Okay, ready? 𝒂𝒂 asked. Yes, get on, last, Izuku said, adjusting his cap a little so that the boys would nod. Okay, Shiketsu Academy, please get on the bus. The trip is about to begin. Accompanying UA students will go last, Izuku shouted. Yes, they all shouted with excitement as they began to climb in a row. 𝒂𝒂, Monoma, Mirio and Tamaki saw the green-haired boy for the last time only for him to nod, causing them to do the same and, last in line, they got on the bus. From a high window at UA, Aizawa monitored everything with precision, every millimeter of students riding on those buses until he felt a light ray of light hit his eye. He just looked down to see how Izuku with his watch pointed at him. Aizawa just nodded, and Izuku, understanding that nod, simply entered the truck. It was time to start with the plan. Izuku sat in the driver's seat and glanced at the rearview mirror for a moment, seeing all the Shiketsu kids chatting amongst themselves or trying to chat with the UA kids. Izuku only saw them for a moment. He felt bad for them, but quickly he shook his head. It wasn't the time for that. Okay, young people, I hope you are ready to go on today's excursion. Nizu's voice was heard on the UA speakers as everyone began to shout with excitement, and the trucks began to start up. The 10 boys gave a big sigh. Izuku put it in first gear, but before moving forward he heard the door being slammed. Wait, I'm missing. Izuku turned around a little confused only to see Denki in the Shiketsu uniform. Izuku, a little confused, turned to look at the same window where Aizawa was still, and he just nodded. He opened the doors for Denki to pass. Excuse me, sir, this one takes Izuku's shoulder. I had a late breakfast. Well, don't let it happen again, brat. We have a long way to go. Denki squeezed his shoulder a little hard so that Izuku would nod, and Denki, knowing that it had already started, simply went to sit in the first place he found. Kami bro, you're almost here. We thought you'd miss this. One of the Shiketsu boys shouted excitedly. You know what, old man, who would want to miss an excursion? He asked with excitement. Okay, let's get this shit started. Izuku took his hands off the steering wheel for a moment before putting them back on. He let out a big sigh and putting it back into first gear he began to move forward. The mix of thoughts did not allow him to be clear on the path, but he had to get rid of that. He was already part of the plan. He could no longer abandon it. A while passed on the truck, more than half of it you could say. 𝒂𝒂 at that moment with his hands down began to slowly lower his 5 fingers one by one, starting the plan. Izuku shook his head, causing everyone to stop. It wasn't time yet, but all that went away when the 5 of them saw in shock how another truck was attached to the caravan of buses heading straight to their destination. Izuku breathed heavily at that moment, trying to stay calm. Wow, another truck, Izuku said loudly so that several students could hear him. Hey, yes sir, driver, it's the CI Academy that joined us on the visit. Izuku and the others were left with their eyes widened as they saw the great museum getting closer and closer in the distance. For their safety and luck, they would enter with everything in the trucks, and the only guards that could be there were the army that accompanied them. Okay, we're about to enter, let's start this shit, and another one because Shiketsu screwed up everything, Izuku shouted, hitting the rudder. At that moment, all the students took refuge in their seats in fear as they saw 𝒂𝒂 and Monoma begin to point a gun at everyone. What is happening? A girl screamed, scared and starting to cry. Shut up, you morons, Mirio, I need you to take the wheel. 𝒂𝒂 takes out 2 suits. Monoma, come with me, Izuku said, getting up from the driver's seat so Mirio could take it. 𝒂𝒂 and Tamaki, stay here. Monona, have you ever jumped from one truck to another? What the hell are you planning to do? 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂 asked, scared. I will launch the missile from the top of CI's truck while Monoma threatens the driver to move the truck or change its direction, Izuku said while taking out both red suits from a suitcase. That wasn't part of the plan, Tamaki shouted. The fact that they were here wasn't either, so as I told the professor, my gift is to act on the fly, he said with a big smile as he put on the mask. The CI bus was very quiet, what could be expected from an all-girls academy. They chatted calmly in their social groups, while the bus driver just enjoyed her music while she did her job, but a little confused she felt something hit the roof. Nah, it must be a bucking bird. She was a woman with dark skin and a beautiful body. What was curious was her decorated driving space, mariachi hats and different pendants, but what stood out the most were the green, white and red colors. Izuku and Monoma remained protected from the soldiers' sight thanks to the large roof that the truck had. Izuku carried the bazooka on his back with the constant fear of falling due to its weight. Well, do you know what to do? Izuku asked, causing Monoma to nod a little nervously. Yes, but I'm afraid of dying, he said, laughing a little. Well, in this mission one of us will die, so death must be something you must accept beforehand, Monoma nods. Well, wish me luck. Izuku just nods. Monoma looked down for a moment. The road at a considerable speed made him nervous, but he could also see a tube protruding from the truck. Then Monoma breathed heavily and jumped off the bus, quickly grabbed onto this tube and breaking a window managed to get in. What the buck? Keep driving to the factory or you'll die. Monoma pulled out his gun and everyone raised their hands. Damn, I thought this only happened in Mexico, said the driver with a little fear, sinking into her seat to continue driving. Okay, honk twice, Monoma said. And 4. Let him do it, damn it, Monoma said, putting the gun to his head. Oh God, I'm not getting out of this. I leave my mom in your care, the driver said in fear, honking twice. The green-haired boy heard it. It was his signal. What is that idiot doing? Tetsu asked as he pointed at the Quirkless driver and, like Psycho, at the students and watched from afar as Izuku got on the truck. Hey, what is that? One of the soldiers asked, confused. I don't know, it seems like oh shit. Everyone saw how the masked man pointed the bazooka at them. The soldiers tried to quickly take out their weapon, but they were not fast enough. The missile managed to hit them. The military trucks began to explode just in time when the students' trucks entered the museum. Several policemen tried to shoot Izuku, but he held on to him and Monoma entered and fell to the stairs of the museum. He quickly began to climb up, and when he saw how the trucks had completely entered, he gave the police the finger while pressing the red button and the doors of the museum quickly closed. We did it, Izuku whispered as he began to breathe heavily. But when he turned his gaze, he could see how the boys began to take the students down at gunpoint, while some cried slightly, others trembled with fear, and others just stood there in accordance with the situation. They sat them all on the floor. By hex and by academy, Izuku began to walk among them while caressing the hair of some until finally the truck where the 11 were in front of all the students. All had their red outfits on as well as their masks, and most of them had their weapons pointed at them. Where is Midoriya? At that moment everyone turned to see the brunette who had spoken. Although her tears of fear were coming out more than they could, her face showed concern and the certainty of wanting to know if her companion was okay. They had not seen him. Then Izuku just gave a big sigh. You won't have to worry about him, he said while removing the Velcro from his mask. Oh, what no, Kendo said in shock. Izuku? They all asked in shock when they saw their partner's face. It was not the same face as always. His face was more somber. That smile that he always had, that sincere smile, was exchanged for one of mockery. You guys freaked out, huh? Izuku mocks. We are informed that the paper house has been invaded. The paper house, Chapter 6. 5 months ago. Oh, so that clears up the mess, he said with a big smile. Kendo, with the same smile and a small blush, just nodded and began to pat her hair. You're doing very well. About 3 or 4 more classes and you'll be ready for the exam. She said this so that Izuku nodded with a smile. Well, I really appreciate it, Kendo, Izuku said, bowing. You have nothing to be thankful for. Whenever you want I will be here to help you, okay? She asked with a tender smile so that Izuku would nod. Presented. Everyone saw with fear, disappointment, helplessness, their most tender, happy and charismatic companion was a terrorist. Hee, it's just a joke, Zuzu. We would never expect something like this, Setsuna said with a nervous smile. Yes, 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒆 is right, Midoriya. It was a joke on your part, although a bit heavy, Reiko said with a tender smile hiding her nervousness. And now you can let them go, Midoriya. So we can get on with this and go home, Yui said as her eyes slowly glazed over with fear. No one will go home today, Izuku whispered as he reloaded the gun and pointed it at them. Don't shoot away, shouted in fear. I just want to make it clear to you that we were never friends, and now you are kidnapped. The orders we give you are your obligations if you want to return home and whole. Did you understand that? Izuku asked, but no one answered him. Did you understand? He asked angrily, shooting at the ceiling. Why, yes, we understand, a girl screamed in fear. The green-haired boy, seeing that she was the only one who responded with a smile, approached her and gently began to caress her hair. Tell me, girl, what's your name? Izuku asked with a calm smile. 𝑪𝒂𝒔𝒂, and if you don't let me go, it will be very bad for you, she said with a little fear. Let's see, miss, who do you think you are to threaten us? Monoma asked, approaching the brunette while taking off his mask, leaving everyone even more scared. I am from the 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒆𝒍, the most powerful family in Japan. Why, if you don't let me go, things will go badly for you. At that moment Bakugo just sighed, and with a smile he rested his arm on Izuku's shoulder and took off his mask. Thank you for that information, Yaoyorozu. You will be very helpful to us, Bakugo said with a smile. Best jeans, bring me the ropes, Bakugo said, so that Tetsu nodded and began to walk with them. What are you going to do to me? Momo asked with fear. Let's make you an exit ticket, Izuku said with a smile as Monoma and Tetsu began to tie her up. Why are you doing this, Midoriya? At that moment everyone turned to see the gray-haired girl. Bakugo, a little annoyed, was about to hit her to shut her up, but Izuku stopped him. Bakugo looked at him confused, but Izuku just nodded, causing Bakugo to do the same and lower his fist. I'm sorry, Reiko, but that's how things are, he said, kneeling in front of the dangerous girl. But why are you doing this to us? I like you, Izuku. Don't do this to me, Reiko screamed with annoyance and tears that began to come out of her. Reiko. The green-haired boy took a deep breath, which was noticed by the gray-haired girl, but before he could say anything a blow reached his neck. Izuku had hit her with the handle of the gun, causing Reiko to fall unconscious to the ground. I'm sorry, Izuku whispered, which was audible to a girl who decided to keep quiet. Please let me go home. I promise I won't say anything about you, Denki shouted in fear. Now, you idiot, get up from there and come do whatever it is you do. Denki just laughed at Izuku's order, and getting up from the ground he began to walk towards Bakugo, who had a red uniform extended to him, and put it on him. Well, I think it's time to get to work, Kaminari applauded with a creepy smile, looking at the others. Loves and Companions, Chapter 7. Well then, you are here, as exit tickets in case something goes wrong, and as workers for everything we will do, okay? Denki asked with a big smile. They were in front of everyone. Izuku had stayed chatting a little with the other boys about the plan while Denki explained the situation to the hostages. And why should we help them? An annoying boy shouted. Huh? Who was it? Denki asked, confused. At that moment Denki looked around and found the owner of the voice. Oh, but it's my friend, Inasa Yorashi, Denki exclaimed with a big smile. You and I are not friends, Inasa said, annoyed. Wow, old man, that breaks my fragile heart, Denki said, turning his gaze dramatically. Why are you doing this, Denki? If you needed money you could have told us, said a scared girl. It's not always about money, Denki said in a quiet whisper that everyone could hear. So what is this all about? Answer me, you idiot! Inasa shouted angrily. Inasa, Denki lets out a big sigh. You've always been a big gorilla, right? I want you to get one shit straight. He puts the gun to his leg, scaring everyone in this shit. Are you going to respect us? Or are you going to have lead? You'll decide which to have. But Denki moved his face back a little when he felt a spit. All might, Denki said with a slightly forced smile. Yes, just give me a moment, Izuku said. Denki began to wipe the spit from his face while Izuku walked towards Setsuna. She was a little scared and stepped back, but the green-haired boy grabbed her with some force and covered her ears. What are you going to do to me? Setsuna whispered, scared. Okay, you can now, Izuku said so Denki would nod. Inasa Yorashi, a student, who has always acted without thinking. Denki began to laugh a little calmly, but everyone gave a loud scream when they saw how the weapon was activated. Inasa began to scream in pain, trying to hold it in. He didn't want to show them that he was weak, but he couldn't. You are a piece of shit, Inasa said as he stretched his leg trying to calm the pain. If you tell me that a lot, well, now you know what can happen if you don't listen to orders, okay? He asked, smiling while everyone agreed. Good. I'm glad we get along, Denki said to get up from the ground and stand in front of them. Then the green-haired boy simply took his hands away from Setsuna's ears and without saying a word he simply walked away. How did you know? Setsuna asked, scared. You don't care, just be thankful that I covered them for you, he said as he began to walk forward, regrouping with everyone. The green-haired boy simply lightly caressed the girl's hair and began to make little rolls with it. Setsuna moved back a little and at the same time came a little closer. She liked that feeling. 2 minutes passed and the green-haired boy just moved away and went to where his companions were. So you really like her hair, huh? One of the girls asked, unrecognizable because of her mask. Heh, I'd like none more than yours, he said with a slight smile, putting his hand on his head. At that moment, Psycho with a few laughs took off her hood and mask, leaving all the girls of Class A in shock. I Intelli? Mina whispered in shock. But you are supposed to be from a wealthy family. Why are you doing that? She asked, confused and annoyed. Easy, wherever he goes, I'll go, she said with a tender smile. And to everyone's amazement, Psycho gently took the green-haired boy by the neck of his partner and began to kiss him. At that moment all the girls in Class A were in shock. She had always said that she hated him, so why was she now kissing him as if there was no tomorrow? And something similar happened with Yui, Kendo and Setsuna, but they couldn't help but cry. Luckily Reiko was still unconscious. Setsuna, Kendo and Yui stared at the green-haired boy, trying to find an answer, but Izuku just looked away, ignoring them. Well, with the everything as settled, what are we going to do? Tamaki asked, confused. Well, we'll start with the simplest thing. We'll set up our base on the second level. Bakugo and Denki, you guys take care of the hostages, the first one who wants to escape. It's lead, Bakugo said, so Izuku agreed, scaring everyone a little. But then everyone saw how the green-haired boy approached Bakugo's hatred and attracted Denki. To Tokage, Yanagi, Kodai and Kendo, don't do anything to them. In any case they don't follow orders, call me, okay? Izuku said, so both of them agreed. Fine, but you know that this must be reported to the teacher, Denki said seriously. I don't care, but nobody harms them, okay? Izuku said, so that both of them would nod again. Okay, take away their phones and any electronic devices they have on hand. Izuku clapped twice so that the remaining boys began to go through all the students, taking away their cell phones and smart watches. Will they give them back to us after we're done? Mina asked with a nervous smile. Yes, of course, Psycho said to take the cell phone away from him at the same time as she took out the battery. Okay, now with all the cell phones together, let's go up. We have to think carefully about what we're going to do next, Bakugo, Denki. Forks, they both shouted as they grabbed a heavier caliber weapon, scaring everyone. Okay, let's go, Izuku said for everyone to nod. They began to climb the stairs of the coin creator, but what almost no one noticed was how Reiko woke up. She opened her eyes slightly only to see the green-haired boy holding hands with Psycho. Izuku. Reiko whispered with light tears upon her newly awakening. Listen, Buck, I want to go. Don't buck with me. I'm just a driver, and I'm the only one of the drivers that was kidnapped. No idea, Denki shrugged his shoulders, making the woman look depressed. Well, things will be like this. The first person I see trying something, Bakugo shoots at the ceiling, causing everyone to back away. Understood? He asked while everyone agreed. Well, we have direct orders from our leader not to harm certain little people, but don't trust them. I don't follow his orders, he said with a sinister smile while reloading the weapon. Above, Izuku slightly moved a curtain, watching as the police tents were put up. Well, notice, the first phase is complete. Now what to do? Psycho asked, confused. Okay, Monoma, install the phone that the teacher gave us. Tetsu, take apart all the cell phones and hang them on the wall with pictures of their respective owners. Todoroki, I need you to take out complete red ones, about 14. And why do you need 14 full ones? Shoto asked confused. Easy, we'll have to wait for food, and we'll have to use 14 hostages. They'll never know who the real ones are, and they won't be able to shoot 14 people. They know there are 11 of us, and that we won't all come out at the same time. Wow, you're good at this, huh? Mirio asked with a mocking smile. Yes, you just have to think a little. Well, Shoto and I will go. We will take 14 hostages, 7 men, 7 women, interspersed between each other. Okay, let's go. He said this so that Shoto would nod, and both of them began to go down. Izuku Psycho said. What's going on? He asked this confused man about to go through the door. Take care, he said with a tender smile, so that Izuku nodded with the same smile. Then he touched Shoto's shoulder, and they both nodded and quickly went down. When Izuku came down, he could see with annoyance and hatred how Yui cried silently, looking at the ground while Denki pointed the gun at her head. Come on, cry a little more, Denki said with a slight smile. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Izuku asked angrily, kicking Denki's hand, causing the gun to fall to the ground. What's wrong with you, idiot? Denki asked, annoyed, rubbing his hand. What did I tell you about them? Don't touch them, this annoying man said, lowering his head, but I told him to move, and he insisted on talking to you, but I didn't pay attention, this annoying man shouted. And what did I tell you to do in those cases? He asked, starting to breathe heavily from anger. That I would call you. Okay, you understand, you don't touch those 4 for anything, and why the hell did you allow it? Izuku asked, looking at Bakugo, who just shrugged his shoulders. You are my partner, not my boss. I don't have to give you explanations, and you can't give me orders, he said without paying attention while looking at the hostages. Then Izuku just gives a heavy sigh. Fine, but don't let it happen again, he said, annoyed, so that both of them would nod. Then the green-haired boy got on one knee and prostrated himself before Yui. Everything is fine now, what did you want to talk to me about? He asked in a calm tone while stroking her hair and drying her tears. I'm scared, she whispered without raising her head. I know you're afraid, we're all afraid, and we can't do anything to get rid of it. Why are you doing this to us? She asked as she began to cry harder. Because I had no choice. Was everything we went through fake? The outings, the friendships, the kiss. The green-haired boy remained silent for a moment, and Yui, receiving no response, did not stop crying, but her confusion grew when she felt the green-haired boy gently grab her face. No, nothing was fake, he said, giving her a kiss on the forehead. For me, everything was real. I love you, you, Reiko, Setsuna, Itsuka, you and Psycho were the only one thing that made me doubt getting out of this, but now I can't do it anymore. But I promise you. With my life, he takes one of Yui's hands, and with the other he takes Kendo's. I promise you with my life, that you will return home, safe and sound, he said, giving Yui a kiss on the forehead again, and then each girl. But what good will it do us to return if it's not with you, Reiko said, drawing the green-haired boy's attention. No, I'm not important in your lives. You like what I intended to be. You don't like what I am. The moment this is all over, you'll get rid of me and you'll never see me again, okay? He asked with a calm smile, caressing her hair. I love you, Reiko whispered, starting to cry. Don't worry, your confusion will go away with time, and you will know that it is not me that you love, he said with a calm smile, getting up from the ground. Reiko tried to take her hand, but the ropes that tied her did not allow it. Okay, I need 7 men to voluntarily step forward, or I'll have to choose them myself, Todoroki said, but no one answered or stood up. Well, I guess we'll pick them the old-fashioned way, Izuku said, taking out his weapon, scaring everyone. Barter and Passions, Chapter 8. Okay, Shoto takes out his gun. We'll choose the one from Tin Marine. Shoto reloaded the gun, scaring everyone. From Tin Marine, from Du Ping. Everyone closed their eyes in fear as they felt the gun pointing specifically at them. At that moment, Izuku stopped Shoto's hand when he saw how he was going to point at Reiko. What's wrong? He asked, confused. She has nervous breakdowns. If you point that at her, you could kill her. Shoto just nodded at what Izuku said and put the gun away, relaxing everyone a little. Well, we're taking too long with this shit. Bakugo angrily started throwing red completes at random people who just stood back a little in confusion. Okay, those of you who have a suit, put it on and stand up, we'll go out. Izuku finished mentioning that, and the lucky ones, according to everyone's words, who had fallen into the suit, put them on with excitement, thinking that they could escape from that horrible nightmare. God, I thank you for this opportunity that you have given me. A girl began to whisper as she put her hands together, and with small tears she took the suit to begin putting it on. Okay, everyone ready? Denki asked so that the chosen ones would nod. Okay, half, dear thing, 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂 said, looking at Todoroki so he could nod. Everyone was scared when they saw the chosen ones being pointed at by guns. What? Asked a scared girl. Well, you were chosen to trade food and medicine, but let me remind you. Aizawa widened her eyes in fear as she felt the gun on her forehead. The barrel felt cold, and she felt her life hanging by a thread. Midoriya, don't do anything to me, Aizawa whispered as she clasped her hands together in fear. Everyone watched in fear as Aizawa fell to his knees and began to pray for his life. At that moment, the green-haired man reloaded the gun and began to pull the trigger. Izuku, put that down right now. At that moment everyone turned to look at Kendo. Fear was visible in his eyes, but the determination to defend his partner was what overflowed from his being. Hey, I think someone hasn't understood how things are here. Denki, already annoyed, pointed his weapon at Kendo. Well, you'll have to kill me to shut me up. Her mouth trembled and her tears threatened to fall, but Kendo did not go back on her word. Well, if that's what you want, Denki said, recharging her. Shoto quickly pointed at the green-haired boy, while Izuku pointed at Denki and 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂 at Shoto. What do you think you're doing? Shoto asked, watching the green-haired boy reload a shot, aiming at Kaminari. What does he think he's doing? We can't kill any hosts. Is that not clear to you? Izuku asked, annoyed. Is that true, Midoriya? We can't kill any hosts? Or we can't kill any of those four? You know it, Kaminari, no hostages, Izuku said, annoyed. And why not? One is not one. Oh, it's just that, you feel something for them, right? Denki asked with a small smile. That's none of your business, Denki. Go back to doing your thing, or you're not coming home anymore, Izuku said, lightly squeezing the trigger. Denki at that moment saw himself cornered. He had no escape, so with a mocking smile he simply raised his hands, throwing the weapon to the ground and kicking it towards Izuku, and in the same way he went towards him. Don't blame me when one of them takes a gun and kills you, Denki whispered in the green-haired boy's ear, who simply stared at the four girls just as they stared at him. This is not the time for this. Okay, Shoto, 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂, hold them back, we need to do that as soon as possible. At Izuku's request, both boys agreed, and with ropes that came on the bus they went out to begin tying up the chosen ones. They had a straitjacket tie, and only a girl and a boy had their hands free. Why? Aizawa asked, confused and nervous. You will take the food and you the medicine, Izuku said, giving a mask to each boy so they could put it on for fear of being threatened with a gun. I hope they kill you as soon as you leave, away said angrily. But everyone stood still as they watched Izuku forcefully hit him in the face, knocking him to the ground. And why did we wait so long? Why don't we kill you? With a slightly strange smile, Izuku began to laugh as he pressed the weapon hard against Away's forehead, who only closed his eyes from the pain of the metal sinking into him. But at that moment everyone stood still and again in fear, watching as 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂, Denki and Shoto pointed at him. Don't do anything to him, Reiko screamed, scared. You said it yourself, don't kill the hostages, Denki said with a mocking laugh. But everyone turned to look at the stairs when they heard the footsteps approaching quickly, and it was the rest of the boys. What the hell is going on? And why are they aiming at Izuku? Saiko asked angrily, taking out her gun and pointing it at the three boys. Why? Well, it's simple, your boyfriend is slowly ruining the plan, and I'm sure it will be thanks to him that this will fail. Oh, what is that idiot Izuku referring to? She asked, annoyed, while the green-haired boy lowered his head. I mean, your boyfriend will defend those four girls with his life, and I won't be surprised the day when that trust is so great that they take his weapon and finish him off to escape, Denki said seriously, and the moment the green-haired boy saw him he put on a small mocking smile. Those two were not partners. At that moment, the annoyed green-haired boy simply got up from the ground, and his face fell back as he felt Saiko slap him, followed by another, and the last one was the hardest, which made him stagger a little. What does this mean? 𝒂𝒂 asked angrily. It doesn't mean anything, it's just a few small misunderstandings. Izuku breathed a little heavily as he felt the girl hit his face hard again. Did you fall in love with them, Izuku? 𝒂𝒂 asked, annoyed. At that moment the girls widened their eyes. They wanted to know the green-haired man's answer, but they all closed their eyes in fear when they heard Izuku begin to shoot his gun at the ground. Setsuna began to scream loudly with each shot. Her weak eardrums began to bleed. Stop! Setsuna screamed as she fell to the ground with tears in her eyes and her ears bleeding. Izuku did not stop at any time and fired 7 more shots. Setsuna simply stood there with a blank stare on the ground and with an unbearable pain in his head and ears. Why, Izuku? Setsuna asked as her tears kept falling and the pain didn't go away. Are you happy? Does that answer your question? Does that answer your bucking question? Izuku asked, annoyed, while 𝒂𝒂 stepped back a little. Izuku, why are you yelling at me? 𝒂𝒂 asked, slightly scared. Just tell me, does that answer your bucking question, or do I have to keep torturing her? He said, firing another shot, making Setsuna scream louder. Why, yeah, it's okay, I think you're right, just calm down, 𝒂𝒂 said, a little scared seeing the green-haired boy. I've never acted like this before. Okay, guys, load the hostages, it's time to go. He said this so that Bakugo, Denki and Shoto agreed. All the cameras were directed at the door, and all the police and military weapons were aimed at the group of people leaving. Wait, don't shoot, most of us are hosts, Aizawa said through a megaphone that amplified her voice. What do you want? Why are you leaving? Another officer asked with his megaphone. You want medicine and food? We are 120 people. You want canned and bagged water, Aizawa said while the green-haired man nodded in the distance. At that moment the officers agreed. They will be given what they ask for, but in exchange we want half of the hostages. That won't be possible. If the deal isn't made, we'll simply go back and we'll all die of hunger. We haven't eaten since we came in. Everyone noticed with helplessness, with fury and with fear how the girl's voice slowly began to break. At that moment, the officers, with no other option, had only to accept the terrorists' request. Within minutes, the boxes of food were taken away. Aizawa and Aizawa began to advance towards where they were, and the soldiers handed them out. We will save you, just hold on, one of them said, taking Aizawa's hands tightly. I trust in God and in you, Aizawa said as the ropes were once again pulled towards the group of hooded and masked people to begin walking into the museum. What are they looking for? Why are they doing this? The 4 attacking boys quickly turned to look at the soldier who, with a megaphone in his hand, asked the question. It's none of your business, Shoto said as the doors of the place were closed again, allowing the hostages and them to enter. Izuku turned his gaze regretful and scared seeing Setsuna still on the ground with blood in her ears while Yui tried to lift her up, but the ties on her hands didn't allow it. Well, what did you get? Nijire asked confused as she watched the hostages approach with the boxes. At that moment the hostages at gunpoint sat back down on the ground with small tears in their eyes. For a moment they thought they would escape. So Izuku just opened the boxes and started going through them. Processed and canned food, as well as bagged water, enough to keep everyone here satisfied for 3 days, Izuku said for the whole team to nod. Well, I think it should be time to tidy everything up so we can sleep. Are we going to do something comfortable for the hostages? Monoma asked so Izuku would nod. We are criminals, not demons, they have already suffered enough. At least they need a comfortable place, Izuku said for everyone to nod. I think there are emergency futons in the UA trucks, Tamaki said so Tetsu nodded and both of them along with Mirio went to check. Okay, let's go up, we have to start organizing everything since we already have everything ready, Monoma said so that everyone agreed and began to go up except for Bakugo and Shoto who would be the guards. This is very easy, right? Bakugo asked looking at the hostages while Shoto got confused. What do you mean? He asked confused looking at Bakugo. I don't know, we're only 17 years old and we're attacking the biggest money factory in Asia. Oh, I see, you mean how easy it was to do all this? Yes, I mean, we were just called, we made a plan for 9 months, And now, the moment we escape, if we do, we will be the 10 most wanted in Japan, 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒂 said while pointing his gun at different hostages, making them close their eyes in fear. Yes, but I will be number 1. You're an idiot, right? It's obvious that I'll be the most wanted, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 said with a small smile, making Todoroki laugh too. They began to joke among themselves, relieving the heavy atmosphere a little, being whatever they are, bastards, terrorists, murderers. They are still children. Night had fallen in Japan. The lights began to come on in the museum, but most were already asleep. Izuku was the only one on guard, and he slowly began to approach a certain girl. Setsuna stared blankly at the wall. Her ears hurt too much, but she took a few steps back when she saw the green-haired boy approaching her. What do you want to do to me now? Setsuna asked, scared. The green-haired boy didn't answer anything and revealed a first aid kit he was carrying in his hand. Setsuna, frightened, felt the green-haired boy's hands holding her face tightly, and she closed her eyes even tighter as she felt more pain in her ears. Just calm down, I'll heal you, Izuku said as he cleaned them with a wet cloth to get rid of the dried blood. Why did you do it if you knew this would happen to me? Setsuna asked without even opening her eyes. I'm sorry. A sorry doesn't fix anything, Setsuna said. I don't know what to do. Setsuna opened his eyes upon hearing the green-haired boy's sobs. Although his face did not change expression, his tears began to come out, and Setsuna instinctively hugged him. I didn't want to get involved in this, but I wanted to give the best to Psycho, and then I ended up losing you too, he said while resting his head on Setsuna's shoulders. And this has been the best? Tell me, how will you live after this? Like a fugitive, escaping from the law, unable to be happy anywhere, he said, squeezing Setsuna tightly, trying to find comfort in her. You see, don't you think it would be better to give yourself up? Setsuna asked as she began to caress her hair. If I do that, I will never be able to see them again, and they separate me from Psycho and I can't live without any of you, without your madness, without Kendo's, without Yui's motivations, without my motivations. You are the ones who keep me healthy, Izuku said between sobs. At that moment Setsuna just lifted the green-haired boy's face, and taking him by the cheeks began to kiss him. Izuku was greatly surprised. He wanted to separate, and he couldn't. Setsuna didn't know what she was doing either, the fear of being in that place, the opportunity to be with Izuku. Everything came together, spinning ideas around in his head. Izuku began to reciprocate Setsuna's kisses as they slowly lay on the ground, surrounded by sleeping hosts. Neither of them cared, and they continued in their kissing heyday. Izuku, make me yours, Setsuna whispered, caressing the green-haired boy's face. Then the green-haired boy simply carried Setsuna silently, and began to take her to a door that emerged in the darkness while continuing to kiss her, and that door was locked. This is very interesting, Denki whispered while sitting at the top of the stairs watching through the holes in the railing as Izuku and Setsuna entered that room. I know who might be interested in this, he said calmly, getting up from the stairs and disappearing into the darkness. From Hell to Heaven Chapter 9. It's the 3rd day since the paper house has been invaded, and the only news we've had from them is that they made a food and medicine supply for all the hostages, including them, which made it impossible to carry out the plan to poison them. Japan is suffering one of the longest attacks so far, and we wish peace and good luck to the families and above all, to the hostages. This was news from Japan. Good morning. Inside it was very quiet. The hostages slowly woke up with the hope that the nightmare was over, but unfortunately it was not like that. They were still inside the same museum and bank where they had been held captive for more than 2 days. Although for a group of 3 girls that fear became stronger, they did not see their partner and friend anywhere, which scared them, but they could not do anything. They could not even move from there. All they had left was to pray that she was okay. And it was better than they expected. Setsuna let out light moans as she felt the green-haired boy gently kiss her intimate part. Izuku, we've been here all night. How come you don't get tired? Setsuna said with a big blush and light dark circles. But you don't complain because I see that you harden, Izuku answered her, with a slightly mocking smile beginning to lick her belly. Izuku, don't lick there, it's embarrassing, she said with a blush, beginning to caress the green-haired boy's hair. She didn't want him to stop doing it. Then why do you hit me more? he asked with the same smile as he began to lick the girl's chest. Jay, just shut up and continue, Setsuna said, turning her head with a blush while still caressing the boy's hair. I made you mine all night, and you want me to keep doing it during the day? Izuku asked as he began to kiss the girl's neck. Setsuna moaned for every hickey that was left on her. Whose are you? Izuku asked with a small smile. From Izuku Midoriya, Setsuna whispered in a small moan, feeling every kiss all over her body. I like that, but well, it's time for you to go back to your post and I to mine, he said, moving away from the girl and beginning to caress her hair. Wait, this will be a one-night thing, oh. Setsuna didn't even have time to lower her head when the green-haired boy raised her cheeks and began to kiss her. It was a kiss with delicacy and feeling, a feeling that Setsuna reciprocated. I love Setsuna Tokage, Izuku whispered with a tender smile. But what will happen to your girlfriend, Psycho? She whispered, confused. I'll see how I do it, but let's make one thing clear. Setsuna's cheeks began to be caressed delicately, causing her to giggle slightly despite the situation. I love you, here and forever, Izuku said while rubbing his nose with the girl's, and Setsuna simply nodded, matching the action. So, do I have to go back to my post? She asked with light laughter, looking at the ceiling of the room. Yeah, well, that can wait a moment. Izuku simply hugged Setsuna and leaning on her chest he closed his eyes slightly. Setsuna with tender giggles just began to caress his hair again. You look like a child, Setsuna whispered with a slight smile. You didn't like it like that? Izuku asked, confused, raising his gaze to see her. Setsuna at that moment simply took the green-haired boy's face and gave him a kiss with delicacy and love. I love that way of being of you. For a moment I was afraid that the Izuku I knew simply did not exist, but now that fear is gone. I love you, Izuku Midoriya, and no matter what happens, I will be there for you. The green-haired boy couldn't help it, and hugging Setsuna, they both fell to the ground, Izuku hiding in his bare chest while Setsuna only wrapped one leg around him. I will get them out of here, and I will take them far away, away from all these problems, I promise you, Izuku said in a whisper while he hugged Setsuna tightly, and she simply nodded with small tears. Well, I would like to stay here with you all day, but the others might wake up, and I don't want anything to happen to you, okay? Setsuna asked, so the green-haired boy nodded, and slowly they both got up from the ground. Okay, go back to your place. If someone asks you, ignore them. I have no excuse, Izuku said with light laughter, but he didn't feel when Setsuna clinging to his neck began to kiss him. Okay, I'll go back to my role as hostage, Setsuna said, so that the green-haired boy with his gaze a little downcast nodded and taking the ropes began to tie his arms. I love you, he whispered to simply leave from there. The green-haired boy just gave a slight smile, and as he left the room he could see Setsuna sitting in the same place he was, and ignoring the others' questions he simply closed his eyes so he could sleep. He was really tired, and Izuku needed to do the same. He looked at all the hosts for a moment, just like they looked at him. For some reason, they were not afraid of Izuku, they respected him. He was the only one of all of them who treated them as they were, people, and not as animals. Good morning, Izuku whispered. No one answered him, but everyone nodded at his greeting, returning it in a certain way. Izuku. At that moment the green-haired boy simply turned his gaze, seeing the orange-haired girl with small tears in her eyes. What's wrong, Kendo? The green-haired boy asked, confused. I'm hungry, she whispered with a little fear, but the green-haired boy simply agreed. I too. Everyone's orders began to be heard, and the green-haired man simply nodded again and heading to a UA truck began to take the boxes of canned food. What do you want to eat? Tuna or sardines? He asked in a calm tone, looking at the food that was there. Tuna, they all said in unison. Okay, untie each other, it's something simple, I'll prepare everything, Izuku said as he sat at a table and began to open the cans. Hey, I don't mean to complain, but you're a pretty bad kidnapper, old man. What assures you that we won't come out in a pack to attack you? One of the boys asked, confused, rubbing his hands as he got rid of his restraints. My hand doesn't feel the weight of the trigger, he said calmly, showing a large caliber weapon. At that moment the green-haired boy was a little on guard as a violet-haired girl approached him. Izuku took the gun, but she simply sat on the table and began to open a can of tuna. I'm hungry, the sooner we finish the better, and besides I would feel a little bad leaving everything to you. You are the only person who defends us in this place, 𝒂𝒂 said with a small smile so that the green-haired boy simply nodded calmly. They continued for a while, until they finished, and the others simply got up and went for their plate, returning to their place. Hunger was getting the best of them so much that they tried to escape. At that moment the green-haired man took 4 plates and went to a group of girls, and sat in front of them. Izuku, 𝒂𝒂 whispered. Yui silently went to take her plate of food, but the green-haired boy stopped her. What? Yui asked, confused. I want to feed them, Izuku whispered calmly. The 4 girls blushed slightly. Well, 𝒂𝒂 blushed a little hard, but they simply agreed, and the green-haired boy, taking a spoonful, took 𝒂𝒂's chin, causing her to open her mouth to take a spoonful of tuna in. Is it delicious? Izuku asked, confused. It's very rich, 𝒂𝒂 said with a slightly big blush. Well, I'm glad you like it, now you. Yui had a big blush that slowly grew more and more, but she simply opened her mouth, but that did not stop the green-haired boy from taking her by the chin while he caressed it a little, directing a spoonful of prickly pear to her mouth. At that moment the 3 girls saw him. Setsuna just smiled tenderly, waiting for her turn. No matter what the boy may be doing, no matter what may be happening, he is the same Izuku as always, the boy they fell in love with and swore to protect. What the hell are you doing? The green-haired boy, a little nervous, just turned to look in the direction of that voice. It was Saiko, who along with the others accompanied by their weapons were going down. What are the untied hostages doing? Nijire asked, confused. They were hungry, they wanted to eat, Izuku said without paying attention, directing a spoonful of food to Kendo's mouth. They have a schedule, Midoriya. You can't feed them before that time, Monoma said angrily. And we have code names and nobody is saying them, so it's not that different, Izuku shouted, already annoyed, getting up from the ground. But that's something else. And they are like us, they are people. If they are hungry I will not make them wait until they die. I am here to live better, not to torture people like you. The green-haired boy couldn't stand it, and threw himself at Denki. On the ground he began to beat him, relentlessly, while the others tried to stop him, but they couldn't. Come on, hit me, that won't erase what we all know. We know you have feelings for those girls. We know you'll screw up this mission. We know you slept with a hostage. Shut up, Izuku shouted angrily, still hitting him. But one kick was enough to push him away from the boy and onto the ground. What does this mean, Izuku? How do you mean you slept with a hostage? Saiko had small tears, but pointing her gun at the green-haired boy she began to threaten him. I'm sorry, Izuku whispered quietly, showing no remorse. Are you sorry? Are you sorry? Izuku, I'm in this bucking nightmare because of you, because I love you and because I wanted to be with you, but you sleep with someone else, and you just tell me you're sorry? Who was it with? 𝒂𝒂, Setsuna, Kendo and Yui simply closed their eyes in fear as they saw how they were targeted. Who was it with? The green-haired boy didn't answer anything and simply stared at the ground. Enough of this shit, 𝒂𝒂𝒑𝒆𝒍. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Izuku asked, annoyed as he felt himself being tied up by both boys ordered by Denki. I'm sorry, Midoriya. You're putting the plan in danger, and I'm not going to jail because of you. Ha, what will they do, take me hostage? Izuku asked mockingly at what Shoto said. No, Shoto whispered. They quickly took hostages and began pointing guns at them while Saiko, with tears in her eyes, put on her mask and opened the doors of the bank. Oh, so, delivered by you, ha, I never thought this would happen, the green-haired boy said with a bit of grace looking at Saiko. I'm sorry, Izuku, please forgive me, but this is the best for both of us. Not for me, you're about to throw me in jail after I did all this for you. The soldiers had their weapons pointed at them, but the hostages prevented them from firing. Oh, well, I can help you with that. So Midoriya, do you want to go somewhere after school? I'll take you, Kendo said with a small blush but a big smile. Sure, Kendo, just let me fix a few things and we'll go, he said this so that the orange-haired girl would nod. Denki took out his weapon. Kendo slowly watched as everything happened. His fear began to emerge. The night was rainy, and under a park hut there were refugees from the same place. They did not want to get wet. So Kendo, what did you think of today's date? Izuku asked with a big smile, making the orange-haired girl blush heavily. I liked it a lot, especially the movie part. It was a good movie. Although she was blushing deeply, she simply yawned. She was already a little tired, and unconsciously fell onto the green-haired boy's shoulder, who with a small smile just began to caress her hair. They were both illuminated by the moonlight, wishing that this magical moment between them would never end. Kaminari, wait, Psycho screamed in fear. Say goodbye to this world, Midoriya. He fired the gun. Everyone watched in fear, in horror, as the green-haired man was about to be riddled with the bullet. But nobody expected that just before closing the doors of the bank, Kendo would get up from his place and pushing the green-haired boy, they both left the bank, while the doors slowly closed. And Kendo was slowly bleeding out. Izuku quickly got up from the ground and took his gun, aiming at all the soldiers pointing at him, but in his desperation, he looked at the ground and saw her. Itsuka, no, answer me, wait a minute. Izuku, it hurts, she whispered while spitting out a little blood. Shit. The green-haired man was thinking 1,000 miles an hour, seeing one of his most important people bleeding to death, the best forces of the United States pointing at them. He simply dropped the gun to the ground and got on his knees, raising his hands. I surrender peacefully, but cure her. She is a hostage. She has nothing to do with this. I am Izuku Midoriya, the main participant in the robbery at the paper house. The green-haired boy thought. His mind thought of the riskily perfect plan. Everyone was scared when he took the gun, but they watched confused and terrified as he shot himself in the rib, on the same side as Kendo. If you want information and to catch them, you will have to cure me and her. Good luck, soldiers, he said with a smile, before falling unconscious. One of the attackers has surrendered and shot himself. He demands that the medical centers treat him and the host who was accompanying him. For more information, stay tuned to the channel. I say goodbye. Good morning. Denki just started laughing a little crazy. This scared everyone and they got more scared when he took the gun and reloaded it. What a pity that her Prince Charming is no longer here, he said, pointing at the three girls. So now they have no privileges and like everyone else at this moment. They will get to work, Denki said while pointing his gun at everyone, especially at those three girls that the green-haired boy protects so much. Everyone was silent, afraid. Reiko, Yui and Setsuna cried inconsolably, for their friend, for Izuku, for what could happen to them now. A delight for Denki. And in the distance, no one heard the sobs of the girl in the corner of the room, who, seeing her mask on which her tears ran, squeezed her tightly. Izuku Psycho whispered between her tears. The Cat and the Mouse, Chapter 10. You sent him to die, Yui screamed through tears, pain and helplessness. And? Denki asked, shrugging his shoulders. You're all pieces of shit, Setsuna shouted angrily. Hey Setsuna, watch your words, you don't want to end up like him, Monoma said seriously. And if you just shut your bucking mouth, we'd all be happier. Look Setsuna, calm down, because you and I are not friends. I won't hesitate to pull the trigger to shoot you, so sit down and shut your bucking mouth once and for all. Monoma was upset, but no, he didn't want to hurt him, because, as much of an idiot as he was, they were colleagues and friends, and he had a little appreciation for all of them. Okay, let's all calm down, Nijire said, clapping twice. Right now we will get to work. We will produce money so we can leave here as soon as possible without any dead hostages, okay? She asked with a tender smile. Everyone was silent but simply agreed. They were afraid that now, the only boy who defended them, and treated them like people, was probably dead. In a hospital room. He woke up with force from the hospital gurney, scaring the nurses present a little. When he tried to move, he could see that he was handcuffed to the back of his stretcher. He was trapped. Izuku Midoriya, it's a pleasure to meet the man who managed to get into the paper museum. The green-haired man quickly turned to see a woman with green hair and a suit. She was from the police. My name is Emi Fukukado. I am the officer in charge of this operation. Nice to meet you, Izuku Midoriya, he said calmly so that the young lady would nod. So, you're going to tell me what happened, the members and the leader of the assault. We need to stop this as quickly as possible, Emi said as she took a notebook and sat next to the green-haired boy. Ha ha, no, Izuku said with a small smile as he lay back on his stretcher. It's not a question, brat. Now you'll tell me how a kid like you managed to invade the largest bank in the Asian continent with just a small caliber pistol, Emi said while frowning at Little. It really hurts his pride. And I told you no, I will confess everything, but I want to see her, Izuku said, looking sideways at the officer. She's fine, Midoriya, she's out of danger, but you can't see her, you're not allowed. Then no information will come out of this mouth either, Izuku said, shrugging his shoulders. The nurses, a little nervous, just looked at the officer, who simply acknowledged. The medical equipment that had been connected to his arteries was now being removed to one where he could move more freely, but the officer was no fool. Her years of professionalism and experience told her that the boy was not just any fourth-rate criminal, he was someone cunning. Okay, let's go, what do you want to spill the beans on? Emi asked, squeezing the green-haired boy's arm tightly. A sedative, I want to sleep a little before going to prison and the pain won't let me, and while alone with her, I want to say goodbye and apologize. Is she part of the crew? Emi asked. No, she was my partner in UA, and a hostage, although you may not believe it, miss, we have been planning this plan for more than 9 months, Izuku said, in a very calm tone for the situation he was in. We're carrying, that means you're not the only one, right? Izuku nods. Fine, you'll stay 10 minutes alone with her, a guard will be at the door waiting for you, I have to go watch the bank, then they'll take you back there so you can give all the information. Have they killed someone? Izuku denies. Shot? A boy's leg, but we healed it immediately, Izuku said for Emi to nod. Well, at least it goes from terrorism to invasion, it is a slightly less serious crime. How do you see yourself in 40 years? Emi asked. Alone, with cats and being a decrepit old man despite my age. Okay, so you'll get out of prison. From what I see, you're about 16, 17 years old, right? 17. She simply answered, without turning to look at Emi. Well, I estimate about 35 or 40 years with good behavior. Can you handle it? She asked with a small smile. A place to sleep and daily food. Where do I sign? Izuku asked with a mocking smile. Well, we're almost at your room. Is there a reason why you've done all this? I wanted to give my wife a good life, so she wouldn't go hungry anymore and I could fulfill her whims, he said with a slight smile. And what happened to her? I threw myself out of the bank and allowed myself to be shot, he said, bursting out laughing. Oh, she's a member of the team? Damn, I'm talking too much, Izuku said, so Emi simply nodded with a mocking smile. Hey, you're very friendly to be an officer who is about to send me to jail for the rest of my life. You know, I respect your reasons for doing it, and shooting yourself to save a hostage is pretty incredible. I don't know what will become of you, but your intellect and your skills would be perfect to be a police officer. Don't you want me to hold a court to decide if they accept you into the police force in exchange for paying your sentence? It's very tempting, I'll think about it, he said this so that Emi would nod. Look, we're here, okay, you have 10 minutes, oh, and take. The green-haired boy simply took both pills that had been given to him. They are sedatives, now yes, it happens. A man in a big suit and very noticeable muscles just stepped aside so the green-haired man could enter, and the first thing he saw was Kendo sitting on his bed looking out the window. Izuku, the green-haired boy whispered while looking at the girl. Izuku? Izuku. Kendo, caring less about the pain, quickly got up from his bed to hug the green-haired boy. He simply hung on to him. Izuku, Izuku, did they hurt you? Are you okay? What will happen to you? So many questions and so little time to answer them, Izuku simply began to caress the girl's hair, calmly and quietly. No, I'm fine, and ask yourself now, what will happen to us? What? Oh, what do you mean? Kendo asked, confused. We'll escape, Izuku whispered in the girl's ear. What? But Izuku, there's an armed, muscular guard outside, she whispered, scared. I know how to get rid of him, but we only have 8 minutes, so we have to be quick, and I already know what to do. The green-haired boy gently removed the tube that was stuck in Kendo's hand, causing her to give a small squeal, but the pain quickly passed, and she took the machine that Kendo was moving with. "What are you going to do?" Kendo asked, confused. "Get us out of here," Izuku replied with a smile. The bag of liquid which he had would be very helpful. The green-haired man simply took out both pills that had been previously given to him, and with his hands began to grind them to put them in the liquid bag, and connected 2 tubes to it, one at each end. "Okay, when I tell you now, you'll run after me. I'll take down the guard first, but I need you to tell me, do you trust me?" Kendo was silent for a moment, but quickly agreed. "With my life," he said while taking the green-haired boy's hand. "Okay, when you hear my scream, you run away. Do you feel up to it?" Kendo nods. "Well, wish me luck," Izuku said. Then the green-haired boy simply nodded and took a deep breath before knocking on the door. The guard, a little confused, only looked at his watch but decided to open the door for the green-haired man. "What's up, Snot?" He couldn't continue. The end of a needle was buried in his neck and the green-haired man took the other side of the tube and began to blow on it, causing the liquid to enter the damn brat. He could not continue, and the floor shook a little. His large body fell to the ground unconscious, thanks to the sedative. "Now!" Kendo quickly ran away, but she was too slow, her wounds didn't allow her, so Izuku, with nothing left to lose, took Kendo in his arms, and they both ran away. Emmy simply paid for her coffee in the hospital cafeteria with a calm smile, and with that same calmness she began to walk down the hallway back to the boy's room. And before crossing it, she could see that same boy she had just arrested walk in front of her with the hostage in his arms. And he reacted late to take out his weapon, and lost sight of him. All units, the terrorist has escaped. I repeat, the terrorist has escaped. 𝑪𝒂𝒂𝒄 hospital, now. She dropped her coffee on the floor and quickly ran in the direction of the boy. At the bank, everyone listened with a big smile. Well, most of them, like the boy they liked so much, had managed to escape. Fence, that stupid rat is lucky. They screwed up. At that moment, everyone turned to look at the radio. The voice was so calm that everyone at UA recognized as the voice of Professor Aizawa. "Oh, what do you mean, Professor?" Bakugo asked, confused. "Izuku Midoriya, he's coming for me now." "How can you know that?" Tetsu asked, confused. "It's obvious, guys, if you don't get that before he catches me, the plan will fail, so let's get to work, let's get to work." The signal was lost, and at that moment everyone fell silent. Good, faster, otherwise you won't get out of here alive," Denki shouted at the top of his lungs, firing a shot into the air. At that moment, everyone agreed in fear and began to accelerate their pace. Denki wouldn't admit it, but he was afraid of Izuku. If the smartest man in the world is afraid of him, it means he's someone not to be trifled with. Aizawa turned his chair to see his side, a collection of photographs and backgrounds he held in his hands. Hacking the Pentagon, only clue, Colombian IP address. Bitcoin smuggling, only clue, 𝑪𝒂𝒂𝒄's residential IP. NASA hacked, satellites stolen, no leads or suspects. 3 crimes that seem to have nothing to do with each other, but these crimes were committed by the same person. Aizawa simply turns around in his chair, to be in front of his monitor. "I have become his prey, and if he manages to capture me, I will not tell it anymore. This has become a game. Come on, faster, we don't have your bucking time." He fired a shot in the air, frightening everyone. A game of intelligence, a mental game. Izuku and Kendo sneaked through the alleys, until they could reach the place they planned. "Izuku Dona," Lily whispered, seeing the young man all hurt next to the girl. "This has become a game of cat and mouse." He took the folder with the 3 crimes he mentioned earlier, and dropped it, next to a photo of the culprit of all 3. Izuku Midoriya. Plans with Future Consequences, Chapter 11. I don't know when it came to this, I thought it would simply be, enter, steal and leave, but my fellow missionaries, they all went through things like me. But life has brought them down, wanting to make people suffer who don't deserve it, and I'm afraid that it could be happening to them right now. Tears began to fall, and Kendo could do nothing but hug the boy, and gently began to caress his hair, trying to calm him down. Yeah, kid, I already saw it on the news. You're one of the most wanted. You're accused of kidnapping, robbery, and terrorism. That guarantees you a life sentence, Dona Lily said, handing him a rate of money. Come on, ma'am, don't make him feel worse, Kendo said while rubbing the boy's hands. It's that girl, you idiot kid, how could you do such a stupid thing? What did I tell you that day? If you needed money you would have asked me for a loan. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I would have gotten it for you, said Mrs. Lily while the green-haired boy lowered his head even more. If I had listened, if I had taken her back home, right now, she wouldn't be going through all this. Izuku hugged the old woman in front of him tightly. It was the only comfort apart from Kendo that he had. And now what are you going to do? You're not going to stay locked up here all the time until you die, right? She asked mockingly. Me, I know what to do, but I need your help. Boy, I'm already old, I don't have much strength anymore, so if you want me to fight against policemen, I'll fail you, she said with small laughs. No, I want. The green-haired boy knelt on the ground and lowered his head to this same. I want you to promise me that if the plan I'm about to make doesn't work out, you'll take care of Kendo, at least until she gets a job and can support herself. Izuku? What are you going to do? Kendo asked, scared. I will turn myself in. They told me that they were offering me a job as a police officer and freedom if I work to help capture the gang, but I will appeal for Psycho to be given freedom as well, so that we can both live in peace, he said as tears began to flow from him. Then do it, said Lady Lily, so that Izuku would look up young Kendo and I will get along well. There is no problem for me, so go Izuku, go and fight for your freedom and Psycho's. I will support you from here. Me too, Kendo said, ruffling the green-haired boy's hair, so go and fight, don't worry about me. I'll do my best not to get in the way. He said this so that the green-haired boy would stand up, and nodding, he began to run towards the door. Izuku. The green-haired boy turned around quickly when he saw the orange-haired girl approaching, and he didn't wait for her to start kissing him, a tender kiss that took a long time. Dona Lily just looked at both young people with a tender smile. I like you, Kendo said with a tender smile. Itsuka. No, you don't have to tell me anything now, you have to go and fix your mistake, she said with a smile, giving another kiss to the green-haired boy, who simply acknowledged. I want you to know that I love you, the girls, Psycho. I don't want you to think that I'm a womanizer, but I love them all, they all constitute an important part of my life, and please, if something happens to me, come visit me in prison, he said, taking the orange-haired girl's cheeks to give her a short kiss, and running away. Do you think he can do it? Kendo asked, as his tears slowly began to fall. I don't believe it. Kendo lowered his head, and in silence, those tears began to grow stronger. I'm sure, Dona Lily said with a smile so that Kendo could quickly dry those tears. Yes, we have to trust him. I trust you. Izuku. Past plans with future consequences, Chapter 12. All of Japan was in shock. They didn't know what was happening, being targeted by helicopters, and by all the police. There he was, Izuku Midoriya, one of those responsible for the great blow to the House of Paper. Izuku Midoriya, you are under arrest for robbery, terrorism, and attacking the nation. You have the right to remain silent, and anything you say can be used against you. The soldiers quickly ran towards him, and using force, they grabbed him and forcefully slammed him against the ground. I want to talk to Officer 𝑪𝒂𝒂, Izuku said with a little pain. You can talk to her in prison, now let's go. Wait, Emi shouted, quickly leaving the police tent. I want to negotiate, Izuku whispered with difficulty, feeling the air slowly leaving him. Let him go, let him talk. But 𝑪𝒂𝒂. Let him go, this annoying woman shouted. The guards could do nothing but listen, and without stopping to point at him, he slowly got up from the ground. What do you want? Emi asked, confused. I want to take your proposal, with one condition, Izuku said seriously. You are not in a position to set conditions, but come on, what do you want? That they remove my information from the map, and also that of Psycho and Telly, that we can both live under the protection of witnesses. If they accept my deal, I myself will enter so that everyone turns themselves in, without violence, without anything, Izuku said as he slowly walked towards the officer. Are you sure you can do that? Tell me, Can I trust you to do that? If I accept your terms, that you will hand them all over without shedding blood? I swear that I will be able to deliver everyone without spilling a drop of blood, Emi said, so that izuku simply agreed. Fine, but a platoon will accompany you. We can't allow you to go alone. They will shoot you in there, Emi said, so that izuku would nod. And so it was, giving him a radio, a bulletproof vest and a gun just in case. He boarded one of the DA helicopters to be able to go up to the roof of the bank. All of Japan was at home, watching on their televisions what was happening next. It was like a series. It was the final blow. The helicopter parked on the roof and the soldiers in question began to fall, and izuku. I take the gun and shoot them all in the leg. What? One of the confused soldiers asked. And at that moment the cameras were able to record how izuku took the weapon from all the soldiers, and with a heavy weapon he began to shoot at the news helicopter that had to back away so as not to fail. And opening a hatch on the roof with a calm smile, he saw how all his companions began to leave. Izuku, sorry if I took so long. Denki, dude, if we weren't thieves we would be actors, he said, taking the green-haired boy's hand and then hugging him. Izuku, sorry for telling you those things. Denki, no problem, we had to pretend well to make it believable. Izuku just smiled calmly and, separating from the hug, began to take the suitcases that they were carrying to the helicopter. You know how to pilot it, right? Izuku asked so Bakugo would nod. The propeller began to spin. Bakugo was already ready to take off. Bakugo, you have to hurry up, they'll be preparing something to take us down. Izuku just nodded, and at that moment everyone began to board the helicopter. Izuku, I want you to know that I always loved you. Psycho, I'll think about it for a while. Izuku, I think it's for the best. He gave her a little kiss on the forehead and he also got into the helicopter, and when they were leaving, he jumped. No, Izuku! Psycho screamed in fear. Greenie, Nijire shouted in the same way. He got off, you have to go up and arrest him, now Emi shouted angrily. The green-haired man quickly opened the hatch and, taking some C4 that he had taken from Denki's backpack, he threw himself down the stairs to fall to the first floor, seeing all the hostages tied up. Everyone was relieved to see that the boy was still alive, he was still there, but they quickly became worried when they saw him placing explosives at the door. Momo, Midoriya, what are you doing? Izuku, I'll get them out of here. He finished placing the explosives and quickly headed towards a certain group of girls. Reiko, why you're okay, she whispered with a small smile. But a kiss on her forehead was enough to make the girl blush a little hard, but she didn't stop there, kissing Yui and Setsuna in the same way. Izuku, do you want to come with me? He asked with a small smile. Yui with you? Until the end of the world, the three of them said with a tender smile. Then the green-haired man quickly used a knife to cut the rope that had tied the three girls and also cut Kirishima's rope. Kirishima, what? Izuku, free them all, you only have 3 minutes, he said while pressing a button. Izuku started to run and the three girls, not knowing what to do, began to follow him, running through the corridors of the bank. The girls were impressed to see a large tunnel in which a car was waiting for them. Aizawa ready? He asked in a calm tone. Izuku, I never knew how he knew all this would happen. Aizawa, I'm a lucky man, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Reiko, and so, where are we going, Izuku? She asked, confused. But as if it were a dream, the green-haired boy took the collar of her uniform and kissed her, the wish that Reiko had always wanted. Izuku, we will go for kendo, then to a lagoon with a small boat that will take us to Brazil. Then no one will recognize us, and we can live peacefully, he said with a tender smile so that the three girls blushed a little hard. And so Aizawa started the car, feeling the tremor of the explosion. Thanks to that explosion, hundreds of police officers came in, and little by little they were taking out the hostages. But the thieves were no longer there. Izuku Midoriya, Emi shouted furiously as she looked at the empty bench. And a student from the new course just watched, confused, as what was his room was full of food trash, and a computer in the middle that on the 3 screens it had marked. The robbers of the money heist have escaped. And
let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.